right. Welcome. Happy Thursday. Happy Thursday, everybody.
Oh,
So glad that you're here with us today.
thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Before we get started, y'all out in Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube land, go ahead and jump on, say hello. As we're going through, I'm okay. As we're going through today's show, if you have any questions, comments, anything like that, throw it in the box. We will get to them. I'm so excited today. We have not been live in a while over here doing our Notorious Women in Mortgage, mostly because my travel schedule has been a little crazy. But we're back. We got a huge announcement. Huge. We have our most recent guest speaker that's been added to our lineup, Miss Lindsey Tagen, with us today. She hails from Colorado, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Colorado with Empire Home Loans. I met her. You guys probably know Julie over at Empire Home Loans. Julie had connected us and was like, y'all got to meet because she is your twin. And then I got on the call with her and I was like, oh, girlfriend, I feel like I'm dating myself. This is such a beautiful like everything you said just resonated so deeply with me. And it's like, I just like, oh yeah, you're perfect. You're in. So I'm excited that I get to share you with my following, and you're going to be at Notorious with us. So
Yes, so
tell
excited.
everybody a little bit about yourself. We'll jump into some content. We'll talk about the event, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. My name is Lindsey Tagen. I have been in mortgage for roughly 12 years now. I was in the retail space for about 10 years and have now been in wholesale for close to 2 years. I've always been an originating LO, but I operated in various capacities in the retail space, including branch management, regional, divisional, and production management for some pretty large companies. And for me, my transition to wholesale over the past 2 years, a deep piece of it was actually identity based. It was not just because of lower interest rates, right? Having a larger product portfolio. As somebody who had really scaled, management in the retail space, I kind of got to this place where I was looking for a way to simply be more autonomous in my business. I wanted away from a lot of structures that not only took from my piggy bank, right? My hard labor, right? My resources. But in general, I just wanted to have more freedom in terms of the trajectory of my business. And I felt that the retail model couldn't afford me that. So my story is, a huge piece. It's about the facts, right, of wholesale, better rates, that kind of thing. But a huge piece to me is actually it's identity based. It's me being able to lead in a much more sovereign way, which is a theme of a lot of talks I give.
Yeah.
Outside of mortgage, you'll find me out in the middle of nowhere in the mountains. I'm a nature lady. And I'm a dog mom of a really, really handsome 90-pound black lab.
Okay. Well, welcome. I'm glad you're here. Let's talk about, a little bit about the event. This is a women's event specifically designed for women in mortgage at this time. And let's talk about some of those things that are a challenge.
Yeah.
All that we're surrounded with is maybe one model of doing business. And how do you, build your business as a woman that you balance those two masculine, feminine energies, more autonomous in the brokered space as well. I know for myself, it's like freedom reigns supreme. So I cannot do something where somebody else is going to tell me when to wake up, where to go, who to talk to, what my quota is, blah, 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 blah. So that's what I love, the broker space. So it's very similar. But let's talk about the challenges as a woman in mortgage. And let's go from there.
Yeah. So a couple of things about that before I jump into the challenges. I think it's important for me to share my values on a couple of different things because it really informs a lot of things I speak about, just my perspective on things and how I coach, particularly some of my, female originators under me. I think number one for me, a big thing is that I don't I don't believe that we should just have a seat at the table because we're women. I believe that there's a performance bar and you either meet it or you don't, right? So I think that's really important for me to say. With that being said, I entered into mortgage in my mid 20s and I scaled, management in my basically late 20s and early 30s. And I think a big piece for me is that if you look at a lot of models for success, you have to be very particular about how you define success. Most of the stuff out there is a very like masculine or male model, right, of success. A lot of that stuff never spoke to me, right? Do I like money in my bank account? Absolutely. But a lot of the narratives, right? Like the motivators, the imagery, right? It was a very like masculine perspective. And to be honest with you, in the Denver market, a lot of it is like Lambos and like hot women, right? Accompanying those, those sales models. They're not just selling you, how to scale your business as a loan officer. They're actually selling you a particular model of masculinity is honestly what it is, right? I'm not a man. So I wanted something, right, a little bit different. And for me, I just like missed being around women and being able to share a side of me that's not seen within that space, right? So I'm a particular version of Lindsey Tagen when I'm in front of 200, right, men. That's just how it is, right? I'm going to dress differently and I'm going to talk a little bit differently. I missed being able to share, right, parts of myself and parts of my story that were hugely tied to me being a woman, right, and my femininity. And I also missed, just talking to women about things that like really impacted my life that I think were a little bit, right, different than men. So for example, how do I navigate, right, dating as a young woman when I'm in a very masculine, right, field, but that version of myself is not the version of the Lindsey Tagen that's off dating, right? seeking my future husband. So for me, like a big piece is not just number one, the presence, right, of women in mortgage and them being in particular leadership positions. It was that most of the models that we have, right, for what success means, they're masculine, right? And I think that something that wholesale, I think, affords women that retail doesn't, and this is just my truth, I feel like it allows a community, right, of women to come together that are like-minded and in a way that retail doesn't afford, right? In that space. And I feel building a community of women, which I know is a main purpose of yours, right, with the Notorious event, is incredibly important because that's a piece of us, right? We're out being bad bitches, ruling the world, right, in mortgage. But there's a piece of us in our identity that's very much tied to being a woman in our feminine nature. And I think it's important to create community around that.
100% agree. And that was a big push because of end of last year. That's like all I saw is every panel would be like 90% male. And it finally just got so loud inside of my heart. Like, I just don't identify with this because it was like that bro marketing of this is what success means. And I'm like, yeah, no, I want that money too, but I don't want to sacrifice the things that are most important to me to get it. And so what is that model? Right. I'm not part of the 5 a.m. club. Like, I don't want to get up early, but that's that mentality that comes out of very masculine driven business model. And if all we're being exposed to is that one model, then as a woman, it's like, I think I have to prescribe to that. And then when I do, there's a big negative impact. Because if I stay in too long, I get into adrenal fatigue real easily. I'm going to burn out real easily. I can't do it that way. And so being able to cultivate other women in the space to talk about things like this. I was just talking with our event planner when I was in Texas, and she was like at an event planner for women thing. And they had a whole segment that talked about childcare, and like how like to set yourself up for success. And she was like, you would never see this on a male panel. Like, they don't, it's not even a blip on their radar to even address childcare,
Yes.
Yeah, there are just some things innately as a female, or if you're in a relationship, how do you deal with that dynamic of being very masculine a lot of the times in our day-to-day business. And then you come home and you're like, how do you fit this? How do you switch that energy? How, what is it like to be in a relationship with somebody like us? It like takes a real strong man to be able to allow their woman to like show up and show out and like not get triggered by it, and some of
Yeah.
us more than our partners. And like, there's so much to talk about there that just doesn't get talked about because women are not on stage enough.
Yes.
Yeah. So cultivating people, like yourself to come and like, let me open my heart to you and pull back the curtain and show you what it's really like and what's the real cost too, because there is a real cost to this.
And it's funny you say cost. If you just look at my resume, right, you're going to see great things. There was a deep cost to me for scaling, right, particular things in the achievements. There were deep costs to me, right? And in general, whenever you're hustling, right, growing your business, yes, like there's other things that are just inherently not going to be top priority. For me, when I say cost, it was a journey for me because I was young. I was in my mid-20s when I started to get the ball rolling with everything. And I didn't really have a strong identity yet around what was even like masculine versus feminine, to be honest with you. When I entered into the industry, it's like, this is what I want to do. I want to make money. I'm very driven. I'm super curious. Like those are just innate things to me. I like building stuff. I like being challenged. That's just something innate, to my being. I never really understood it in like a masculine way, right? And even though, yes, I was surrounded, by men, when I first got into the industry, I didn't honestly quite think about it that much. I really started thinking about it, as I got closer to being 30, and I was asking myself, am I the version of myself, right, that I really want to be? And part of that is success now. If you were to ask me 5 years ago, my answer would have been different. But success now is an alignment of my whole being, right? So that's money in the bank, right? But that's me also being able to be present, right, for my family. For me to be a good daughter, a good sister, for me to be the version of myself that I need to be to seek the type of man, right, that I want. It's also the version of myself that can go out into the mountains and shut off my phone for 2 hours and not be nervous, right, that my business is going to explode and people are going to die and everything's just going to go to shit, right? It's a true alignment of my whole being. And I had to go through this process to really understand a lot of the things that I tucked away, right, to scale that ladder. That was my feminine side. That was me putting back my hair. That was me wearing business suits. That was me wearing ties. That was me speaking in, right, a very specific tone of voice to command authority as a young feminine woman, right, in a masculine environment. And at some point I reached this place where I don't know how to explain it. I felt very disconnected from my soul, to be honest with you. It's like I didn't feel tethered. Where am I going? What am I doing? Right. And now, after doing some self-work, right, I'm able to understand that as I was missing, right, my feminine piece, tucked it away. Things didn't go so well. And now, as you can see, she's out and about these days now in wholesale.
Yeah.
So
Love it. I love it. I love it. And somebody was like, oh, you post thirst traps. I was like, thirst traps are part of the business model, apparently, and do it. Let's also talk about, you said something that I think is very powerful about being able to shut off your phone and go into the woods for a couple of hours and not feel like that, either one of two things, the anxiety around missing business or the shame of not working hard. Mine was the shame of not working hard. That's my trigger. Talk about what are those, I don't know if it starts with a mindset for you or tools or what, but what happened? How'd you make that shift?
For me, it was like a process. So I started this process probably in 2018, 19. And I made some changes because what I was doing, I was working like 80 hours a week, right? and just some fundamental pieces of self-care were missing. And I was so far off from it that I knew I needed to implement things. I couldn't just like wake up one day and say, I don't like the version of myself and I'm going to change. So a couple of things I did was number one, I signed up for personal training actually. And I'd always been into like athletics and stuff, but as I grew my business, I stopped taking care of myself and I knew I needed to be accountable. Just me going to personal training for 30 minutes, my phone was put in a basket. Okay. I remember just driving right in the middle of the day to do that. I had extreme anxiety about putting my phone away for 30 minutes. Now, when I think about it, it's insane to me. Right. But that was my truth. It had become such a habit, right, for me to be glued to everything, that just putting my phone away for 30 minutes during lunchtime, right, which normal people call lunch breaks, right, was insane. So just doing little steps like that. And then little things like I silence my phone at night. Now, I know where all my files are, right? I know everything. There's nobody going to be calling me past 8 p.m. with something crazy. This is not the 2021 market where you need a revised lender letter because there's 15 offers on the table for one house, right? So I silence my phone at night. That's another thing. If I go walk my dog, sometimes I don't even take my phone with me, or I silence it. It's going to be deeply uncomfortable because that's what happens with habits, right? They become deeply ingrained in us. I promise you, if you start doing just small things, at some point they'll become a habit. The version of myself that I was probably prior to 2020, 2021 is truly unrecognizable to me. Like that is my truth. When I look back at that girl, I'm like, woo, yeah, girl, you hot, lots of success rate, lots of money, but so many things that were just so not aligned, right?
Yeah. Like at what cost, right?
Yes. Right.
The phone is a hard one for most of us, right? Like big time for most of us, we have a hard time getting away from the phone. For myself, I know that some of it has been belief system around nobody can take what's divine's mine.
Yes.
And so I need to take a break and I lose a client. They weren't mine anyways. And I'm okay with that. And so more for me into like that spiritual side of it, really trust and faith and that I can step away from the phone. And then also the shame game, two sides is shame around like not working hard enough. That's a hard one for me because that's a big trigger of like laziness. So I have to actively work on that one a bit. And then also the shame around the phone. Like plenty of people are going to shame you for being on your phone all the time too. And so, these are all really great opportunities to like have life reflect back to you and like work on these internal issues of
shame. I would say like shame is like certainly a universal feeling. I do believe though that the way that women are socialized and our societal structures, I feel like shame, right, is a feeling and is a category of emotion that uniquely impacts women. I that's just my that's my truth. I think we experience shame a little bit differently, right, than men. And I do believe that's just the way we're socialized, right? Like we're socialized to serve is what it is, right? We're socialized to serve. We're socialized to always be nice, right? Like the support system. We're socialized in a way where we carry many, many different hats. That's, I think, an inherent difference, right, to our identities compared to men, is we wear a lot of different hats and roles.
Yeah. What's one of them? I was just talking with Rebecca Richardson. She's the speaker on our panel. And we do our business very differently. But she was talking about, we were talking about debt service loans and how she's like, well, how do you market them? And then there was part of this, like, is it too flashy? And I was like, oh, this is interesting. Like, as a woman it's not appropriate for women to be seen at that level, to make that kind of money, to be flamboyant. Men can do that. That's why we have the pro marketing. But women, it's not appealing. And I'm like, oh, I love that. I love that because as a woman, we're often trying to like think of like, what are people going to think of us, or dealing with that idea of what others have to say and being acceptable and, you know, all of that. So we're definitely going to dig into that at the retreat for sure. I love this comment from Phil. DP age defying lifestyle said, I have worked with many, many, many women in the mortgage biz these past 40 years. Women have always reached a level or two above men. That's interesting. I don't know about that. I mean, there's a lot of really great companies, but I think by and large, we're talking men kind of good old boys club. I think maybe emotionally they can support organizations a little bit more effectively, which is in upper levels of management, right? Because the whole field is not just male. So, yeah, let's also talk about what are you going to talk about when you're at the event?
Oh, I'm going to talk about all sorts of goodies.
Okay.
So a big kind of like platform of mine is our Loan Gangster Call. So we just started that a couple of weeks ago. Lots of women are on the call, but to be honest with you, it's open to everyone, right? All originators, like all channels, all companies. And it's a like foundational technical skills, right? Call. We have tons of stuff about sales, right? Coaching, scaling business, getting leads. So much of that stuff in the industry. We have virtually nothing that just walks through, right? Loan officers through the foundational technicalities, right, of structuring loans. And so what happens is we have all of these people, right, that want to go out and get business, that want to scale, and are having impediments to do so because their foundation's fucked up, right? Like they don't know the basics of agency loans. They don't know how to read credit, AUS. They don't know what they need to do before they turn it off, you know, into processing. So we have that call going on, which is just a foundational skill set call. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about that. And then the second piece is just a little bit about my story and what I consider to be a little bit different of a take on kind of like I used some flashy verbiage in my title, different take on the boss bitch, right? We have the boss bitch as a narrative all over, I think, social media, right? As it pertains to women, right? Scaling the corporate ladder and becoming financially autonomous. And I think for my age group and below, there's very, very loud voices in terms of what constitutes equality and empowerment, and autonomy and alignment. And I'm not here to say any of those things are wrong, right? And I'm not here to say, you know, all women, right, need to listen to what I have to say. What I am here to say is I have an alternative take on that. I believe that balance is so important. So I can be, you know, super aggressive in business, for example, but one of my values is to be kind to people. I don't see my softness as weakness. I see that as a really great thing, right? It allows people to be vulnerable with me, and that's what creates, right, true human connection and community. And I am also, I think, again, for my generation and the younger generation, a large piece of that model is telling women that they need to recreate themselves as men, right? That there's not a lot of differences. And I think, number one, just on an ideological level, I don't agree with that, but on a soul level, you know, there are differences between men and women. And for me, it's about celebrating, right, aspects of the feminine that I think are beautiful, right? Our nurturing side, we're the givers of life, right? Mothers, I think should be celebrated and uplifted. And for me, I'm not into this thing where in order for you to be successful, right, and for you to make it in this world, you have to recreate yourself as a man. I deeply believe in embracing the feminine side, and I think femininity is beautiful and divine. So that's my thing.
I'm with you on that 100%. We talk about, or I talk about this on social and have interactions with people around, you know, not so much, it's not really a conversation around gender for me, around energy and like, yeah, there's this masculine and feminine energy that we all have within us at different varying degrees. Um, and yeah, do I need to really dig into my masculine? And sometimes too much. Sometimes I play
Yeah.
there way too much,
Yeah.
but it
Yeah.
gets stuff done. It's highly
Yes.
effective, right? We
Yes.
all need it
Yeah.
because we can't just sit in the feminine and, create all day and talk about our feelings because nothing gets
Yeah.
fucking done, right? So
Yes. Yes.
we do need that energy.
Mm-hmm.
And like I was saying, like if I stay there too long, I'm gonna go into adrenal fatigue. I'm gonna burn
Yeah.
myself out. I'm gonna be a horrible person to be around. And so I've
Mm-hmm.
learned for myself, what is that balance,
Mm-hmm.
where I can really stay in my creative source. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's the yin and the yang, right? So
Yeah.
I want to be able to attract clients to me.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of having to like kill, hunter gatherer. So you have to have both, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, I really like try to stay in like what feels good for
Yeah.
me in my business. That's like my
Mm-hmm.
litmus test of where
Yeah.
I know I need to stay. Like I don't have KPIs. My business plan has nothing to do with like markers because I don't think you can
Mm-hmm.
really KPI or measure building relationship. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's so
Yeah.
intangible, right? And a
Yeah.
lot of times the model that we see up on stage is going to be that masculine, KPI driven, like marking shit off and like really
Mm-hmm.
analyzing and measurability. But I like my whole business is built on like feeling. Does it
Mm-hmm.
feel
Mm-hmm.
good for me? And if it
Yeah.
doesn't feel good for me, I'm not going to stay there because that for me is my internal, compass of like, where do you dig in? You dig in where it feels good because there's like energy transfers. And
Mm-hmm.
so if I'm staying inside part of my business that I don't like, end customer feels that. Everybody
Yeah.
around me feels that. And so I want to stay where it feels good and like I mean, sure. Can you be successful on pure force and grit? 100%, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Are you gonna like it? Probably not. Probably
Yeah.
not. And so all of that is possible. All of that is available to all of us. But we also, as women in the space, need to show other women and even other men that there are more alternatives to creating a successful business in this
Yeah.
space. Doesn't have to be on brute force, and
And
it's
I
like,
would say a big piece
yeah,
to that is really about values, right? If your number one value is money, that's going to affect, right? Habits, behaviors, your relationships, your choices, right? It bleeds into everything. If your number one value is family, right? First, and then money, again, it's going to heavily impact things. So I think that uh, for me, I love money, right? I love I love what money can afford
right.
me, just in terms of time, right? And the freedom, right? It gives me. Um, uh, but I think in terms of just models, I believe, and I know Julie Arbrough is somebody who articulates this, beautifully. It's money is her second or third peg, right, on the ladder, and she believes that if she has everything else in line, right,
The money
the
comes.
money follows, right. And I deeply believe that as well. And I think that you see a lot of women, right, have a couple other things on that ladder, right, besides money, because they are wives, they're also mothers, right, and that's incredibly important to them. And so I think that there needs to be more voices around, hey, it's okay to want to be profitable, right? Having money and wealth and scaling is not like an inherently like moral right thing. You can do all of these things but still have main values,
Yeah.
right? So for example, your family or your kids being number one. And I don't believe that a lot of our current models of success are holistic, right? Or all encompassing in that capacity. And I think there's a lot of men out there that want to make money, but also want to have, happy lives, perhaps
Mhm.
children, be a good husband, that kind of thing. But I think women in particular, you'll see them have like less myopic, right? Um, Drivers or like motivators, again, because of our nuanced uh roles, right? In society and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree 100% agree with that. And I think too, like at least maybe business, or maybe it's not business, maybe it's just our conscious level as people is starting to shift and evolve to like highlight an alternative way, right? Where
Yeah.
maybe 10 or I don't know, maybe it's just I'm older. I don't know. Maybe this is the process of just getting older in general.
Yeah.
I found myself in my 20s and even into my 30s really just valuing achievement and tying achievement to worth and life.
Yes.
That was like, I was willing to sacrifice it all for the achievement factor because that determined my internal value and worth. And like
Yes.
doing that for so long, for me, I usually have to get hit upside the head pretty big in order to make a life change because I don't make life changes real easily. I'm a pusher and a forcer, and I'm going to do it my way until life is like, oh, no, you're not. So I really just found myself completely burnt out and like not like everything had to fall away for me to eventually find a new path of, creating something that feels good and that I can have success and still be a mom and still get my kids from school and still, which I think sometimes, that's like for me, like there's a limit at which I'm willing to give up now, where I don't know if I had that limit before, where now I'm like, if it takes me away from the things most precious. I mean, there are times you're going to have to sacrifice.
Yeah.
You're going to have to work, all that kind of, like, it doesn't happen via magic. This is not like magic hour. It doesn't happen via magic. So you are going to have to work. I don't know if you have to, people say hard work. I'm still trying to even play with that verbiage in my head of like, okay, well, you got to do it. You got to do the physical activity. Does it have to be hard? I don't know. Maybe it's not hard. Maybe I can do my business with ease and grace and like not just taking these, like, I don't know if they're like, I'm going to probably use every word wrong. I don't know if it's dogmatic is the word that I'm thinking of, but just like, things, these mantras around business and that there is this only way and it has to be hard work and like outwork everybody. And like, even just looking at,
well, it's hustle. It's hustle.
Yeah. And like
culture all day long.
Yeah. And like, how do we connect with these ideas and theories and words? And like, maybe you can flip the script for yourself if you don't like it. I mean, fuck, if you love it, if you're like, I'm a fucking 5 a.m.er, be the fucking 5 a.m.er. Like, yeah. If you don't.
I would say like the main thing is, are you doing something because you love it? It brings you joy. It's tangibly impacting your life. Or are you doing something just for the sake of doing something? So you can put hashtag on social media so you can be a part of something. I think that's really what people need to ask themselves. It's not about saying X, Y, and Z, right, is unhealthy. It's about asking yourself the why behind why you're doing that.
Yeah. Agreed. Oh, man. People be asking any updates on loans already.
I know.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap up today because I'm sure we both have a ton of shit to do. So you guys, if you're loving this conversation, you want to be in community with, women like Lindsey and myself for 2.5 days, masterminding, connecting from all levels. So, from the heart level, from the business level. What's really important to me that these are women that are coming to the event that are givers, that were, it's not, we're going to hold the secrets back from you. It's like, no, legit.
We're girls. I'm blunt for you, Pate. We're girls over here. Okay.
Yeah. So not triggered by somebody else's success, other women that want to run with you, that want to cheer you on, that really want to see everybody succeed. I think that, succeeding together and having everybody win is a really strong theme for the whole movement. So you guys can go to notoriouswmn.com and grab your tickets. The hotel is so good. I was there yesterday.
Gorgeous. It's such a nice, like, feminine, romantic touch. I love it. Yes. Yeah, I think it's a perfect venue.
Yes. I was just like, oh my God, I'm so happy it's here. It is amazing. For me, I know, I'm like, we're wrapping it up, but let me tell you some more stuff. Sorry.
That's a woman's brain, by the way.
So I was like, and everybody works a little bit differently in like the broker space. For me, my mom opened our company in 1993. There's like 3 of us that do loans, right? So it comes around time for like end of year party. It's like, okay, well, who's the number one producer out of like the 3 of us, you know?
Yeah.
It's like nobody be giving me any awards, nobody be sending me on President's Club trips, but I'm like, fuck it. Nobody's gonna be giving me. I'm gonna give my own self some awards. I'm gonna send my own self on a President's Club trip, and that's kind of like how I view this Notorious one. It's
As
like,
you should, as you
yeah,
should.
like this is my chance to come together with other women in this space and like celebrate myself and my achievements and like all the women that are there and their achievements. And then also, you know, looking at what is my intention for the next year and taking that information that's going to be gifted to us through the next, you know, those 2.5 days and, you know, being able to connect. Even like I was talking with Rebecca the other day and I was like, she mentioned something, Loom. And I was like, I need you to tell me, what is Loom? How do I get it? How much does it cost? How are you? None of this, like, just mention something from the stage. Like, I need you to break it down to me. Like, who are you using for your editing? Who are they? How much does it cost? But like, you know, it's like I need to know like the details of like how do you do what you do. And so I'm so excited to learn all of that from everybody because everybody has a little bit different business and different models and different tools and tech and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
anyways, that was my tangent. Get your tickets.
I love it.
Get your
To my
tickets.
ladies in Colorado, please reach out. Please come. This is honestly an event that has like-minded, just brilliant, deeply creative, like collaborative women. It's a great opportunity for you to just learn, right? A bunch of none of us are good at everything. Like I suck at social media, for example. So I'm like really looking forward to listening to all these girls whose Instagrams are like fucking ridiculous. I'd look at them. I'm so jealous. I'm like, you look so good up on your Instagram page. Please reach out. I would love to connect with a lot of y'all in Colorado. And Paige, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be a part of this.
You're welcome. Thank you. And thank you guys for joining us. And we'll be back, I don't know, maybe next week, the week after, who knows. Got some really good exciting announcements coming up for you. Another special guest outside of the industry. I think she might be the only one outside of the industry that's going to come in. Perfect fit. You guys are going to love her too. And with that, we'll see you on the next one.
Hey, y'all.
Bye. And